Hey, good evening. Welcome again to another broadcast. So glad that you guys can join us. Let's go ahead and get things started. Well, it is Friday, November the 7th, 2025. We are already pretty much got a weekend already in November. And man, it's moving, ain't it? Well, anyway, I hope you guys had a great week. Hope you got the things done you need to get done. And most importantly, I hope you're getting the rest that you need. Hey, have you guys been doing those breathing exercises I've been talking about, or you just kind of listening and just like, oh yeah, that sounds cute. That sounds like a great idea. I hope you're really doing it, because I'm gonna tell you, it really does make a world of difference. There are plenty of videos out here that will show you how to do it, just basic breathing exercises, for my people who are, be a Christian or whatever it is you're in. It's not even, you're not praying. It's not you can pray in that time if you want, but it's really about bringing in silence in your life. And I've talked about this before, when it comes to particularly when we're talking about Black culture, we really don't have a silent portion in our culture. We don't. Think about it. Anytime that we are silent, it's most of the time it's, church related, or you're bowing your head to pray. Nothing wrong with that if that's your choice. But I'm talking about having a time where nobody's talking, not even you. And you're just chilling and you're just relaxing and, just you and your thoughts, or beyond your thoughts. There's really not anything like that. And so I would encourage you to start your own tradition of being silent, being quiet. Anyway, so today, shout out to Willie in the house and Sika and down in Mississippi. She said it's hot down in Mississippi. Well, it is 74 degrees out here in sunny Arizona. The sun is about down. Tonight, we're going to look into this whole notion of power, or I should say artificial power, because I think I think we can conclude now that much of what we've been calling Black power hasn't been that at all. When you are in a position when you are claiming to speak truth to power, by default, what you're saying is you're not in power to begin with. So we're going to talk about that tonight. And so anyway, so good to have you guys here. And I'm so glad that you guys can join us. And so, yeah, that's what we're going to be getting into tonight. I was going to do this as a pre-record, but I'm going to tell you, a lot of times when I do those pre-record videos, there is a bunch of editing and stuff that's involved in that. Even when I'm just here in my office in the studio, it still takes some time, to do that. And a lot of times it's time I don't have. So I just said, man, I'm just going to go, broadcast this evening. So it just, that way I could just run through it and that be it. So anyway, glad to have you guys here and join us, and we're going to get right into it. But just want to make sure that I bring your attention to a couple of things here before we go ahead and jump in tonight. Discussion. Remember, we are still running the up to 30% off promo over on sambatree.com. Make sure you check it out. Many of you have jumped on the 8-herb multi-vitamin and mineral brew. And man, I'm telling you, they're going to be going out soon. And I'm going to tell you, let us know, please, write in when you get yours and you start making it. Let us know what you think. I mean, I'm loving it. I am absolutely loving it. And it's a game changer, in this house, at least, because who don't like fruit punch? I love it. But it's the funny thing is there's no fruit in it. It's all herbs. And we were able to, my wife was able to come up with a mixture of different herbs, put it all together. And it has so many health benefits to it. It's just off the chain, man. It's off the chain. And it's right here, actually. It's here's some of the things that's in it: soursop, hibiscus, horsetail, oat straw, nettle, moringa, burdock, rose hips. Can you imagine giving all of that to your children, just drinking it? They're like, "Mama, I want some more." You know, it ain't something. It's not Hawaiian punch, or it's not some of this other crap that you get at the store. But it's 100% natural, and it's something that's going to be fully beneficial to them and you. And so, yeah, this is the latest thing that we came out with. Again, check it out. It's over at sambatree.com, along with some of the other things that we have. Remember, again, up to 30% off. That's what we got going on right now, along with some other things. Make sure you check it out. Everything from powders to bitters to oils to things for dental care. We believe in 100% taking care of our bodies with 100% natural things. We are here to reverse the narrative when it comes to our health and wellness. And we also here to educate. That's what we do too as well over on our YouTube page, our Samba Tree YouTube page. Make sure you check that out. Okay, make sure you check that out over at our Samba Tree YouTube page, because we do a lot of education over there and a lot of free information. So make sure you check that out. And most importantly, put yourself on our email list at Samba Tree, because our emails, we try to jam pack it with a lot of great information that is very helpful. We put a lot of time in those emails, most of those emails. And we also oftentimes give away stuff. So if you're not part of the email list, make sure you're a part of it. Go to sambatree.com. All right. All right. So we're going to go ahead and jump in and get started. Man, a lot to talk about, but we're going to try to keep it centered. But I'm just going to tell you right now, we're going to keep it 100%. OK, so, I hope you're up to it. And we're just going to tell the truth and keep it moving. OK, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So hope you got you something good to drink, got you a good seat, something good to eat or whatever. So we're going to just jump on in here. Let me get my notebook and let's go. OK, hold on for a second. Here's my notebook, because, I spent probably about a good hour making sure I had everything together, because I didn't want to be up here just rambling. So anyway, so let's just start off with this. So by now, I'm sure many of you have seen the video going around of Kanye West and him basically going to repent to the Jewish community for all the offensive things that he has said regarding them, or what they have deemed to be offensive. And so, I will be the first to tell you that, although I did not agree with his approach, it's not tactful at all, just the way he was doing it. But I will say this as well. Not everything he was saying was a lie. It was not. And so, the whole thing about the media, who controls the media, we're going to actually talk a little bit about that in a little bit, because we're going to get into the history of hip hop. We're going to focus specifically on the era of hip hop, because hip hop at one time, for those that are of a certain age, you should know this. I'm just telling you, but you should know this. Hip hop wasn't what it is today. The day of, today we got the Nicki Minaj's, we got all, we got people talking about, the extreme violence and beefing and all this other stuff. Hip hop wasn't like that. It didn't start off like that. Hip hop was something that was party music. It was fun. It was something for really the whole family could enjoy. And it was safe. You understand what I'm saying? It was party music. That's basically what it was. And there was a certain time in history where it pivoted from just being regular party music to something more dark and very demonic. And we're gonna talk about that. But anyway, Kanye was part of that whole movement, and Kanye was able to amass a fortune. He is, at one time was worth over $1 billion. $1 billion, y'all. That's a lot of money, ain't it? But that's what he was worth. So I want you to keep that in mind, because here you're going to see a billionaire now, All right. We got a lot of billionaires out there now. You know, I don't know if you saw the news that what's his name? Elon Musk. He is basically on the road to become a trillionaire. And, you know, people got something to say on that and, you know, I'm pissed off and mad or whatever. But anyway, I may touch on that a little bit later. I don't care one way or the other about it. But anyway, let's take a look at the video that's been going around. This was posted on this rabbi's on his Instagram, I believe. So let's take a look at the full video and then we'll come back. OK.
Blessed to be able to sit here with you today and just take accountability. I was dealing with some various issues, dealing with bipolar also. So it would take the ideas I had and have me take them to an extreme where I would forget about the protection of the people around me and myself. So I wanted to come and take accountability. Sometimes people aren't that knowledgeable about the bipolar and the cause or what causes it and the way you act when you have this disease. So it's like if you left the house and you left your kid at the house and your kid went and messed up the kitchen and messed up the garage and messed up the living room. Now when you get back, it's your responsibility because that's your child. And that's the way I look at it. It's like I gotta go clean up the kitchen, I gotta clean up the living room, I gotta clean up the garage. Yeah, and it's a big deal for me as a man to come and take accountability for all the things that I've said. And I really just appreciate you embracing me with open arms and allowing me to make amends. And this is the beginning and the first steps and the first brick by brick to build back the strong walls.
Say Yandut, the rabbi said the Judaism. The Judaism brought to the world a way for someone when he regret about something that he has done wrong. And the Jews live on this way of if someone did something wrong, he can regret and fix it. And the rabbi is hugging you and hugging everybody. And God willing, and from now on, strong things and good things, and only good. You are a very good man.
Amen. That's a blessing, man. Yeah, good.
Okay, so there you go. So this is, you know, Kanye West going and bowing the knee. He's a billionaire now. Let me ask you something. How many billionaires do you know of? Billionaires now. And I'm going to say particularly white ones. How many billionaires are you aware of that you saw, that you've seen come out and make this apology, make an apology for, for something that they, for something that they said in the past? I'm just curious. How many times have you seen that? Because, I'm just one little humble little person here. I don't get around too much, but I mean, how many times have you personally seen that? Have you seen Bill Gates do anything like that? Have you seen, some of these other ones, these owners of, sports teams? Have you seen them do anything like that before? Where they came out and went to this old man who's a rabbi and said, I just want to apologize, not just to you, but to your people. Tonight, I want to give you some perspective, okay? Because we're not going to when I talk about read, we're going to read tonight, okay? We're going to read tonight. I want to start off with giving you, for those of you who are not familiar or aware, when you look at Jewish history, there is one rabbi that stands out above pretty much all the rabbis. And they refer to this rabbi as probably the greatest rabbi, and he was Maimonides. Okay, and he's quoted quite extensively in the Talmud, and I want you to take a listen. We're going to read together. We're gonna listen to what he had to say regarding black folks. This was something that was written many, many, many years ago, and it's still in the Talmud to this day. And so I want to read something to you. All right, let's take a read at this. Among these who have no religion, there is a group of people whose entire inner thought is given to the immediate satisfaction of their material wants and appetites, and they do not long for anything else. To them, men become like the dumb animals, or even lower, since the animals at least do not eat to the point of bursting, and they do not mate with every woman they see. I have already mentioned in the first part of this treatise that the inhabitants of the South have lustful and bestial natures. They have bodies which are hotter than the bodies of other people because they are closer to the sun, whose rays reach them when it is near the zenith. This is the opinion of the physicians, and the inhabitants of the North are the people with weak and cold natures, whose bodies are cold and their humors thick. The inhabitants of the South are the Negroes. Okay, so he's being very direct here. The inhabitants of the South are the Negroes, and they have lustful and bestial natures, and their bodies are hotter than the bodies of other people. To my mind, they do not have the rank of men, but have among the beings a rank lower than the rank of man, but higher than that of the rank of apes. For they have eternal shape and lineaments of a man, and a faculty of discernment that is superior to that of apes. Okay, I want you to really I want you to cook on that for a moment. I'm just having to send something to somebody real quick here. Hold on for a second. I want you to think on that for a moment. I'm going to reread it to you because I want to make sure you are hearing exactly what I'm hearing. Okay, this is their history now. So you want to get mad at me, you better get mad at their history. Oh, you want to see what's on my screen? I'll be more than happy to show it to you. I'm not, so that you know I'm not just like pulling things up just to be saying stuff. Okay, it's right here. We're going to read, I'll just read the second half of this. This is Maimonides. He said this. All right. This is the opinion of the physicians. And the inhabitants of the North are the people with weak and cold natures, whose bodies are cold and their humors thick. The inhabitants of the South are the Negroes, and they have lustful and bestial natures, and their bodies are hotter than the bodies of other people. To my mind, they do not have the rank of men, but have among the beings a rank lower than the rank of man, but higher than the rank of the apes. For they have external shapes and lineaments of a man, and the faculty of discernment that is superior to that of an ape. Okay, so I want to make sure you heard that, because tonight, I'm not playing games tonight. You know what I mean? I'm not going to play any games tonight. You know, not that I do at all, but tonight we're really going to hit it hard tonight. I'm just letting you know. And especially to you people who want to pretend to be these people. So we're going to be 100% tonight. Okay. Not that we never are, but we just going to get it right to it. Okay. Because Kanye, when Kanye was coming out and saying those things, oh, do I have that video? Let me see. He was when Kanye was talking like this. Let me see if I can find that video. Because Kanye wasn't talking like that before. The Kanye that Kanye is apologizing for. Let me see if I can find that video. Let's see if I can find the previous Kanye video. Let's see. That would be under, because I have this filed under something. Let me see. Oh, here it is. Here it is. This is the Kanye that Kanye is apologizing for now. Let's bring it up. Let's put it on the screen here. All right, take a listen. This is the Kanye that Kanye is apologizing for.
Do you take back any of the anti-Semitic stuff you might have said?
Black people can't be anti-Semitic. We are Jew.
Well,
You understand what I'm saying? We are Jew.
I think
So cool out. Until you do your facts, until you really do the facts with the fake indoctrination that y'all pull into the schools and all that, you know what I'm saying? We're not following y'all rules.
I mean, just like calling death con on Jews and that sort. Like, do you take back any of that sort of more extreme stuff?
You know
said?
what? For all the kids that love me, all the Jewish kids that love me, I'm sorry if y'all had to hear a grown-up conversation with us screaming at each other. But we got to a point where something needed to happen. Something needed to be said. Somebody needed to say something. Now, if you're in an argument with somebody, you're not going to say everything the right way. But it got to a point where y'all ain't going to just keep running, start calling me bizarre and impressed for all these years. I got to a point, how many more times y'all going to call me crazy? How many more times y'all going to give me fake medication that makes me fat off of a misdiagnosis when I really have slight signs of autism from the car accident? But then y'all gave me, you say, whatever, just give them that bipolar medication. Y'all try to kill the superheroes. But we here, we alive.
Okay, so you just caught that, right? He said that misdiagnosis. He said in that video that Kanye said it was a misdiagnosis. Let's go back to something else that the old Kanye exposed. Again, see, what I do, I go right to the source. I go right to the people. You know what I mean? I ain't got to make stuff up. I'm just going to go right back to what you said and what you put out. Well, this is Kanye a while back. This is the Kanye that Kanye is apologizing for. He posted this a while back on Instagram, not Instagram, sorry, on Twitter. All right. So here's what he said. He said, "What should be obvious by now is that I was raised to stand for my truth, regardless of the consequences. So I will say this again. I was mentally misdiagnosed." That's him. He said that. He said that. He said he was misdiagnosed and nearly drugged out of my mind to make me a manageable, well-behaved celebrity. He said that. And then he added this to boot because he talked about this, but let's read this because this was from his, it was like his therapist who happens to be, ta-da, Jewish. Let's take a read to what he shared from his own phone. "I'm going to help you," he said, and this is what his therapist said to him. "I'm going to help you one of a couple of ways. First, you and I will sit down and have a loving and open conversation, but you don't use cuss words. And everything that is discussed is based in fact. And not some crazy stuff that dumb friend of yours told you or you saw in a tweet. Second option, I have you institutionalized again where they medicate the crap out of you and you go back to zombie land forever. Play date with the kids just won't be the same." So we got that Kanye saying this and exposing all of this. And then we got this Kanye here that right now, this is the Kanye we got right now. So we got two different Kanyes here. We got one Kanye saying he was misdiagnosed and no, he wasn't really bipolar, wasn't that at all. Now all of a sudden he's coming back on bended knee and saying that, oh, when you got, when you're dealing with the sickness and the disease that I have, it's sometimes you just say things that are kind of crazy. Let me tell you something. I've said this before. One of the things these people love to do is that they like to make you inhuman. And I told you this goes all the way back to Maimonides. I showed you that. Okay. Did we not just read that? We just read that. So this and Maimonides is considered one of the most respected rabbis within Judaism. And this is how he saw Negroes. So out of that mindset, this is why you will never see a Bill Gates on bended knee to any kind of rabbi. You'll never see anybody else that's a billionaire in that class on bended knee publicly. You will never see them do that. But you sure enough will see black folks doing it all the time. You'll see them do it all the time. Why? Because, again, the people, and who are they bending their knee to? The very people that they're trying to emulate. You'll never see them. And so here you got Kanye putting this out saying, hey, he goes from one thing, now he's going to another. Now, let's keep it a buck here. He is, the truth be told, when you are in that world, you sign a bunch of contracts. You make a lot of agreements, the whole nine, right? And people don't realize, these people, a lot of these entertainers, man, they have to walk the line. They have to stay within their bubble, if you will. They got to get out and say certain things. They got to do certain things and all of that stuff. This is known all around. This is what they do. One of the ways that they do is basically blackmail. Blackmail is a very common tactic, especially amongst Mossad. They will use this all the time. In fact, who's the producer that got in a lot of trouble, the Jewish producer that got in a lot of trouble in Hollywood? He used to contract Mossad agents, Mossad soldiers, to do his work in Hollywood. This is open. Everybody knows this. And one of the things they used to do is blackmail. So when you hear about Epstein Island, that was mainly for a lot of these white celebrities and entertainers and people in politics, right? So you had Epstein doing that. And then on the other side, you had Sean Combs doing what he was doing, the Diddy parties. He was getting all the black folks and have them come in and say, yeah, man, just do whatever. Meanwhile, he got cameras in every room, people taking notes the whole time. And so when you go out and try to do something, this is a standard practice that comes from the people that are referred to as the chosen. But you also have a number of people who aren't in the chosen group that will participate in it because they're getting paid to do so. It's just what it is. So I know someone like a Kanye, he's probably under an enormous amount of pressure. No telling what they have threatened this man with, now that he's had children with that woman. You know what I'm saying? There's no telling what was put in his face, that he needs to do something or else. So will we ever find out? I don't know. We'll see. Maybe Kanye too will show up again. Kanye's like Jekyll and Hyde. He'll go this route for a moment and then he'll switch back, and then all of a sudden he's back to being free and and speaking his mind and all of that stuff. They done cooked that man's brain. They have. But what's really disgusting to me, and then I'm gonna continue on what I'm talking about because we're gonna move on to the next person, is the amount of religious people that jumped on his back. And I'm not in the street, okay? I'm not in the street, but it's another expression that I want to say, but I'm not gonna say it. But it was a lot of Christians, some of y'all out there too, a lot of Bible believing folks. When Kanye started talking about this stuff, in the moment he started opening his mouth up and start doing those Sunday morning worship stuff and all that, y'all would have main bastards. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna call you out for who you are, that was riding this dude when he was doing this stuff, and you weren't seeing the big picture. You weren't seeing what was really going on. Now this man done a whole complete flip. Now all of a sudden you're quiet. Now you ain't got nothing to say. Now you're going to sit back and just act like nothing is happening. I can't stand when that happens. It's stuff I'll be saying on here. It's as obvious as I don't know what. And then the same people will come on this platform and then they will act like, oh, what group of people you talking about? I don't remember that. You were the main ones opening your mouth about this. It may not be you, but it was other people that watched this platform. They were all up on Kanye. They were all up on him. But in a moment he does something like this, now you split off. You do the Homer Simpson into the woods. You don't want to say nothing. You don't even want to acknowledge this dude. Anyway, let's move on. But Kanye, as you know, he wasn't the only one where he had to bow the knee. There was also Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon, he did the same thing. You remember when Nick Cannon, he had his podcast? Nick Cannon was also going through that time in his life where he was like the fight the power Nick Cannon, because Nick Cannon before, he was like the goofy kind of entertainer and all this other stuff. Meanwhile, he bouncing on every woman he can find, having children all over Hollywood. But at the same time, he was the funny entertainer and all of that, right? So he was doing all of that, but then he, shifted into his fight the power mode. And then, he started, he had his podcast. And so then he was in that fight the power mode. Then he said, okay, I'm going to go so black. I'm going to get Professor Griff. And we're going to talk about him in a moment. He said, I'm going to have Professor Griff on my channel. We're going to chop it up. We're going to talk that talk. We're going to get into it. And Professor Griff, he's got his own history as far as calling this stuff out and what happened to him. But like I said, we'll get into him in a moment. But Griff is still Griff. He's the same Griff back then as he is today, or other way around. He's the same one. And you gonna invite him on the platform, you better, you just better be ready, because he gonna continue where he left off. That's what I can appreciate about him, is that he ain't moved at all. He's still same Griff. So he got on there and he was saying what he was saying about the Chosen Group. Well, they didn't like that, and then Cannon, he's up there like, yeah, that's right. Say more, Griff, say more. He was all into it. But then Cannon got that tap in the shoulder, because there was only one person at that table that had a lot of contracts, and it wasn't Griff, it was Cannon. So Viacom was like, come here, boy. Sit down. No. Bad Cannon. Bad boy. That's right. Boy. Bad boy. You criticize us. We don't play that. Okay, so just for that, we're going to take away your shows. You can't be the circus clown anymore. You can't put on those funny costumes and stuff that you were doing anymore. And you say, he doing all the crying and buck dancing and all of this other stuff. A clown afraid that they took away all his toys. And then it was so bad, they even quoted his mother saying, well, hey, listen, I was doing some family research, and I found that somewhere down the line, there was someone in our family line that was a Sephardic Jew. So we're actually Sephardic. We're Jews too. They were so desperate to get him back in the clown show. And it wasn't until he went and kissed the ring, just like Kanye did. And then he had to do all the, whole thing, and, have this able-bodied black man up here acting like that. And here's a clip from, this is part of his healing, his road to restoration. When he had the rabbi on his podcast. Let's take a look at that. I have the clip right here. Hold on for a sec.
I also knew that these themes, Rothschild, all the conspiracies and stuff,
right?
It's pure Farrakhan. And there were two generations. Griff, who it turns out I had something to do with a generation ago.
Yeah, we're going to get into that as well.
And a younger, better-looking guy, just parroting the old Farrakhan lines. Now, and I understand exactly that for many people in the black community, When they hear Farrakhan, they think of Million Man March.
Indeed.
They think about black empowerment.
Leadership.
They think about leadership. They think.
You see the road that this rabbi is going down. I know when you black people, you know, when you hear people like Farrakhan and you hear some of these other radical people, you know, there are some things that you may see here, but they are very wrong. Am I right, Nick Cannon? Yeah. You're right. You know, we can't be thinking too much for ourselves, so we can't do that. And the moment he was doing that, moment he bowed the knee, all of a sudden Nick Cannon got his shows back, and he was making more children all over the fruited plain. And it was just something to watch, to see black man after black man being emasculated. Let me tell you something. I don't care who these folks are. I mean, the chosen group. Let me just say something to you. Let me ask you a question. Since you're in the emasculating black folks, when are you going to start apologizing for what you did to our music? When you going to start apologizing to us? Let me go down the list here. Let me give you a quick history here. Remember, I told you when rap first started, it was party music. It was music for pretty much from adults to old people. They could all enjoy it. It was minus some I mean, I remember when rap music didn't even hardly have any curse words in it. It was just fun dance music. It was party music. People would be playing that loud. I could still see in my mind in the 80s, people be blasting it in the streets, you know, dancing. We would literally be dancing in the streets. How many of y'all old enough to remember when the guys would get together and they would do the breakdancing competitions in the streets, where they would get that piece of cardboard, big piece of cardboard, you know, tape it up together sometime, you know, depending on what part of town you were in, you know, they'll even spray paint some designs and stuff on it. But for the most part, it was like a big piece of cardboard because, you know, you couldn't do the moves that you need to make on that concrete. So you needed that cardboard. There was a time in Black American history here in America, we would be dancing in the streets. And I am so glad as a Black American person that I was able to witness that. Where we would dance in the streets, and it would be a good time. Everybody, it would just be a fun time. And then, you know, the guys would get into it first, and then the girls would get into it and all of that. I could still see in my mind today, you had the guys doing that, and across the street, you see the beautiful black girls on the other side be doing double dutch. And then someone come with big radio, whatever, playing some, some old rap music from back in the day. And, it's just really something like I'm just sitting here thinking about that now. Very good times. That's the rap music. That's the hip hop I remember. But just like with jazz music, because we actually did a video on this, I took y'all through a whole history of black music on one of these videos I did. Just like with jazz music, they wanted to get bigger. So what happened? They started making agreements with the people who had control in the industry. Let me just go down the list of some of these people here. All right. You got Seymour Stein of Warner Sire Records. Now, he was, I believe he was responsible for signing of Ice-T. Now, Ice-T, if you go through the history, he was probably one of the first earliest rappers who basically made that transition from it being, because if you do a search for Ice-T and like some of the early stuff that he was putting out when he first was getting into the rap game, y'all would laugh because he looked like a goofy teenager. I mean, he was just doing this stuff, it was very innocent. But then when he started getting to that cop killer stuff and all that, that was later on. But when he started getting into that, he was under the direction of Seymour Stein of Warner Sire Records. All right. And then you also had a person by the name of Jerry Heller, Ruthless Priority and Capital EMI Records. And I believe Jerry Heller, he brought in with him NWA. And he was one of those voices that was silently promoting these groups on the West Coast to start going hard like they were going. Now, let's be fair here. You did have black folks in the rap and hip hop world that were testing the waters on their own, like 2 Live Crew, for example. Now you get into Florida music, Miami music. They were testing the waters on how far they could take this stuff. So I'm not gonna sit up here and say it was all Jews that put this stuff out. No, you had black folks that were putting this stuff out. They were testing the waters of it, and they were getting, you know, a positive response to it, unfortunately. But it would not have gone as far as it did had it not been for these gentlemen that I'm mentioning to you right now. You had Leor Cohen. I'm going to play a video clip from him in a moment. He was with Def Jam on Columbia Records at that time. Jimmy Ovine, Interscope, Time Warner. Then you had Tom Silverman of Tommy Boy Warner Records. There were a few others out there, but for the most part, these are the main players out here that were, you know, that gave that type of hip hop on a much wider scale, and they were pushing this stuff. And that's when you got the East Coast versus the West Coast nonsense and all of that. So they took an art form that we came up with that was very innocent, clean, fun, and then they turned it into something demonic, and they promoted it to the hilt. This is Leor Cohen. It was on the Breakfast Club. Many of you may have seen this clip before, but I think it's worth bringing it up again. I want you to take a listen to him and what he was saying when he was on the Breakfast Club some years ago.
This opioid thing, man, is
well, being a crackhead wasn't cool back then. Being a crackhead wasn't cool. Now they seem like they're making it cool to be drinking lean and syrup, and
it's the most dangerous. It's the most dangerous thing that's facing our society.
So why sign an artist that would promote that?
Because I already answered that question. You weren't paying attention. She asked me talent or issues, and I said talent. But I have to. I can't give up on people.
But I'm saying that's hypocritical, though. You're saying the
it's opportunistic.
Yeah.
I got people to feed. I got a business to run.
You're gonna make Dame Dash take this clip and call you a culture vulture.
He's got mouths to feed. He knew exactly what he was doing, but it's not just him, it's other people as well. But this is what they were doing. And just so you can, you know, to really bring home the issue of just how infiltrated the hip hop industry has become over the years. You know, when Kanye came out with what he said, the video clip that we just showed, he, you know, you had Nicki Minaj, that you can see on your screen. She retweeted the video and she said, "So happy to see Kanye publicly take accountability for all the pain his words have caused to so many, standing with our Jewish brothers and sisters." Now, I want you to take pause on this for a moment. Let me just speak on the adults in the room. Nikki, let me speak to you for a second. I know you're not probably watching this small little channel. You're probably not. You're probably out doing your thing, you know, and you keep on doing your thing. But let me ask you something, Nikki. Did you by chance issue any kind of similar sentiments in the amount of pornography that you put out and how you exploit yourself and have set yourself as an example for literally millions of young women, particularly black women all over the world? Have you taken accountability for any of that, or do you see that as a flex and continue to count your bag? You notice how these people get very soft when they're talking about these particular people. But when it comes to black folks, when it comes to their own people, all of a sudden it's okay to call them N-words, B's, hoes. These are our words, and we own these words. Nobody else can use these words. But when you're talking about the certain tribe of people, oh, we got to be soft. You know, we can't offend them. You ever notice that? Oh, it's going to get deeper tonight, y'all. It's going to get deeper tonight. But not just that, Azalea Banks and her crazy self, she's always over the map. And I took note of a few Hebrews that, because recently I think she's still in Israel. In fact, when you go to her profile, she puts on there, she's in Tel Aviv. So I don't know if she's actually moved over there or not, but for the most part, I know she's been spending a lot of time in Israel. So, she's suspect, period. But recently she did a video, or she was posting some things on social media complaining about the fact that she was looking to get her hair done. And she was asking around, where can I get my hair done? I'm just going to tell you how this stuff is so full circle. And I'm telling you the story. You can go on her Twitter page or X page, and it's all there. Someone told her, oh, there's some Hebrew Israelites that are around in Israel. Oh, what Hebrew Israelites are they referring to? Oh, yeah, the ones that we've been talking about on this platform, the ones in Dimona. There's some Hebrew Israelites that are out here and will be willing to do your hair. Yep, same Hebrew Israelites. And so she mentioned she was having this open discussion about this, and then you had her Jewish fans, quote unquote, they were giving her a lot of flack about stuff and all of that. And she was like, whoa, what's going on here? What's going on? So, yeah, she discovered the other side of it. And then she started being somewhat critical, wink, wink, nod, nod, of, Jewish people over in Israel while she's in Israel. But not too long after that, she must have got to talking to, because now Azalea Banks proudly has put the Israeli flag all around her name now. And so this is what her tweet said on the 6th, which was yesterday. Kim Kardashian is an Armenian woman, and she's seen up close how Islam destroys women and little girls. Of course she is pro-Israel. Pro-Israel equals pro-women's rights. If that ain't laughable, I really don't know what that is, because clearly you haven't been in Israel long enough. Especially when we're talking about Ethiopian women, what they were doing then. This is the same Israel that basically was inoculating Ethiopian women so that they could not have children. You can't bring that up. Your crazy behind won't bring that up, but they're pro-women. Yep. And when she was having her little fallout, the one I was just describing, you had some Hebrews online. I take notice of these things. Oh, yeah, she waking up to the truth. Oh, God will use anybody. The Most High, he'll use anybody. Y'all get so quiet when I bring this stuff up. It's funny. Anyway, let me just switching off. Okay, let me move on real quick here. Public Enemy, I'll just mention that real quick. Public Enemy, many years ago, Fight the Power, or was it Welcome to the Terror? I think it was Welcome to the Terror Dome. They had a line in there regarding, what would be deemed as anti-Semitic or whatever, right? And, Public Enemy, this is Fight the Power. Public Enemy, many of you who grew up in that era know that, man, when you heard Fight the Power, when you heard Public Enemy, we can really have a conversation just about Public Enemy and what it really meant and how it was connected to James Brown. James Brown and his whole history, the music, the funky drummer stuff and all of that, that funky drummer beat, even when James Brown first introduced it, there was something about that beat that called attention to Black Americans everywhere. It was something about that. That's why I don't play around with people who want to disconnect us from our African roots. Oh, he one of them people. Yes, because I'm proud of my part of my lineage and my history. I'm proud of that. I don't run from that because there's too much evidence that shows that. When you look at the diaspora, you'll see that the drum was a very integral part of our culture. When you look at many of the slave uprisings that took place all throughout the South, it was the drum that was instrumental. When they heard that beat, when they heard that drum, it called Black people to attention to go to war. It was so dangerous during that time. They literally had to ban the drum in the colony states during that time because they saw what was going down. Now, they didn't ban it in the islands, or they didn't ban it going into Central and South America, but they showing up banned it here in the United States, because when they start seeing what was happening, when they start hearing them drums and they saw black folks are coming on point and we grabbing whatever we going to grab and we just wiping everything out, it caused something. That's your history. You understand what I'm saying? That is your history. And how dare you let any of these ass clowns out here make you identify with being Atlanteans and space aliens and Sephardic Jews and all that. That ain't their history. This is your history. So James Brown was able to channel that energy when he did that funky drummer stuff. And I remember it was when he did that I'm Black and I'm Proud. It's a whole story behind that. It was a concert that they were putting on. I forgot the guy's name. It was a movie. It was about some of my DC folk you remember. The movie was about a very instrumental black DJ in Washington DC at the time, and he put together a concert to try to get black folks together, because at this time black folks were like falling apart because you had the assassination of King. I don't know if the assassination of X took, well, it's backwards because it was Malcolm X first, right? And then it was King. So Malcolm X first, and then I think when King got hit, that's when it was just, black folks just completely lost, and understandably so. And so it was this DJ in DC that said, hey, listen, we need to put together some kind of unity concert where we can cool some heads or whatever. And then he got, and I believe James Brown, that was the concert that he showed up to, and he played I'm Black and I'm Proud, and he got people on point with that. Well, fast forward, when you get into the hip hop era, for those of you who remember back in the songs back in that day, everybody was sampling James Brown stuff. Everybody was. In fact, this was a whole point of contention for years with James Brown, with the hip hop culture, because people were sampling so much of his stuff and he wasn't getting any of the royalties of it. But he was calling black folks to attention. And so Public Enemy were able to use it in such a way where they were able to solidify and to rally. It was like a rallying call for black Americans during that time. This is by now, we're in the 80s. And when they did Fight the Power and Welcome to the Terror Dome, when they were doing that kind of stuff, it was something about it. Everybody knows all you got to do is hear the first three notes of either one of those songs and you ready to fight. I mean, every time when I would go to the gym, that was on my playlist. I may have been struggling, but it was something about when I hear them drums, when I hear Welcome to the Terror Dome, my back starts straightening up. I get strength from somewhere that my ancestors bore. They're like, okay, let's go. You know what I'm saying? That's your history. And so that's what Public Enemy, that's the energy that they brought. And I can't tell you, you can't compare any group. There's no group that I can point to that I can say that had that kind of energy, even in today's world. There's no group that I can't. There's none. There's nobody I can compare Public Enemy. That Public Enemy. There's no other group I can compare. I'm talking about hip hop now, because of what they brought, and I saw the impact they had on the lives of many people, young people during that time, and I was one of them. So anyway, fast forward. So Griff, being Griff, said what he said, in that it was a line in there. No, actually, I think he was being interviewed. That's what it was. And I think he mentioned something. It was a criticism towards the chosen tribe. And when he said what he did, it was like, oh no, we gonna have to get you out of here. So they got with they got with Public Enemy, the group, and they were like, nah, you're gonna have to do something. So they threw Griff under the bus. They threw him under the bus, and they got rid of him. Chuck D got rid of him, cut him. And it's just been trash ever since, as far as I'm concerned. So they got rid of Griff, but they kept the clown. They kept Flavor Flav. So every time, and then ever since then, when you would see Public Enemy, it was always what's his face? It was Flavor Flav and Chuck D. You always saw them, but Griff they got rid of him because he was telling the truth. Anyway. But again, breaking that up, they broke that stuff up. Anyway, I covered all of that. All right, so what I will do, let's take a short break, and then I want you all to pay attention to this part here, because this is where we're going to really get deep here, because now we're going to switch to the religious side of the fence here. All right. So if you Hebrew Israelite, current Hebrew Israelite, former Hebrew Israelite, whatever, don't care, in Christendom especially, and not just the Hebrews, but also Christians too, I want you to make sure you stick around, because yeah, we're gonna get into deep here, and you're going to be challenged. You are definitely going to be challenged. Okay, so y'all stick around, and I will be right back.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's tea time, Samba tree style. We don't sip, we celebrate.
We're back. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate that. And thank you guys for sticking around. Again, make sure you check out our over on sambatree.com. Make sure you check it out. We got that up to 30% off promo going on right now as we speak. So yeah, we're in the winter now. Are we in the winter now? Well, we're getting close to the winter. We're still in the fall. The weather is changing for a vast majority of y'all. Unless you live out here in Arizona, in southern Arizona, like I do, the weather ain't really changing too much, because it's still somewhat warm, but it's not. It's all good. But we do need. I need them to turn it down sometime. But today was pretty good, though. I have to give. Today was pretty good. It wasn't that bad at all. It wasn't that bad. It was a very nice day out today. And but for the rest of you, I see y'all wearing jackets and stuff like that. I'm like, dang, we ain't. Now, if you go to the northern part of the state, up in Flagstaff and all of that, it's cool. It's like a regular full fall, but we don't have that here in southern Arizona, at least not yet. But anyway, good to have you guys back there. And then let's jump right back into the conversation here. All right. So yeah, we covered quite a bit in that first section here, but now we're going to talk about this whole, we're going to take all of that, what we talked about here, and we're going to talk about, really going to look at power, because a lot of us, we have settled with this idea that power means you yell and scream at people. If you look at the thumbnail, what did I say on the thumbnail? If you are finding yourself speaking truth to power, what that means is that you don't have power to begin with. So no matter if it's one person or a dozen or thousands or even 1 million people who decide to come together and say, we are going to show a show of force, and we're going to this day speak to power. What you are saying is you don't even have power to begin with. That's what you're saying. You're on the outside. You have mentally put yourself in a position that you on the outside. But Dwayne, you don't understand, but truth be told, they are in power. Yeah, they may have more things than you have, but you have power too. And it's more than you just marching. But since we're in this construct, I'm going to tell you how at least the people who run this construct, I want to show you just a demonstration of how power actually works in this construct, okay? And again, once again, we turn our attention to the chosen tribe here. And I want you to take a look at how power actually works, okay? So they're going to give us an education on how power works in this construct, okay? So let me pull this up here and let's take a watch and listen. Hold on for a second. Turn that up. I'm not going to play the whole video, but we're going to play a good part of it. Take a listen.
It has raised some eyebrows among some on the right, which is really interesting to see. So,
I promise and officially recognize the capital of Israel and move the American embassy to Jerusalem. Isn't that right, Miriam? Look at Miriam. She's back there. Stand up, Miriam. Stand up. Miriam and Sheldon would come into the office. They'd call me. He'd call me. I think they had more trips to the White House than anybody else I could think of. Look at her sitting there so innocently. She's got 60 billion in the bank. 60 billion.
Miriam Adelson is one of the most powerful women you've never voted for, an Israeli-born billionaire whose influence reached all the way to the Oval Office. She's the mega donor who poured tens of millions into Donald Trump's campaign machine. And the numbers are jaw-dropping. In 2024 alone, she gave around $100 million to a super PAC backing Trump. In previous cycles, she and her late husband contributed over $600 million to support Trump's campaigns and other Republican causes. She and her late husband, casino tycoon Sheldon Adelson, poured hundreds of millions into Donald Trump's campaigns, and in return got something money was never supposed to buy. When Trump recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital and moved the U.S. embassy there, that wasn't just politics. That was the Adelson agenda in motion. Trump even thanked her by name, calling her a hero of Israel, and he wasn't exaggerating. Miriam didn't just support Trump, she shaped him, quietly pushing some of the most controversial pro-Israel decisions in modern history. Love her or hate her, Miriam Adelson proved that sometimes power doesn't sit in office. It writes the checks.
Last election cycle, Miriam.
There you go. I think that was pretty much the part I wanted to write, because they go into a whole discussion about that or whatever. But that is how power is demonstrated within this construct. Adelson, did you see anything about them marching, doing some massive march? They ain't doing no marches. They're writing checks. And they're calling the shots. And they're saying, Mr. President, this is what you're going to do. That's how power works. You understand? And let me just say this too. Power in of itself, money is basically energy. It's all that is. And just because you may not have as much as they do, it doesn't mean that you don't have power. Do you understand, black man, black woman, and whomever else is watching, that the same creative force that built all of this stuff, this nature, these beautiful mountains and all these animals out here, and and just all what we see in the ocean, the stars in the sky, it's in you. It's in you. And that no amount of money can purchase that. Are you doing your breathing exercises? Remember, I keep saying that. I'm going to keep on dropping that until y'all start doing it. Once you begin to tap into who you really are, it will change your perspective on that. It will. It will. This is a very, very side note. It just came to me as I was talking to y'all. Did y'all hear that story about the ostriches? Hope I'm saying that right. Up in Canada, for whatever reason, these demonic people said that a woman who has been raising them. She had an ostrich farm in Canada for over 30 years. They had over, I want to say either 100 or 300 ostriches. They rounded them up. This is the nation. This was Canada. They rounded them up because they said they had bird flu. Rounded them up, cornered them, and mowed them down with guns and just killed all of them. It was like a massacre because they said they had bird flu. I said, these people are so demonic. They are demonic. They are dark. These people are so, you want to talk about dark arts? That's dark. That's demonic. You're going to take a graceful bird like the ostrich and someone who's been raising them for 30 years and you're just going to mow them all down. You're just going to kill all of them. But at the same time, you want to tell us that, hold on for a second. So these birds have bird flu. Now help me make sense of this. Okay, help me out. Maybe I'm missing something. The birds have bird flu. So your only solution is to slaughter them. Human has bird flu, but we have a vaccine to cure you from it. Hold on for a second. So you don't have a vaccine for the birds, but you got a vaccine for the humans. The birds, you just got to kill them. But the humans, we got a vaccine to protect you from. I don't know. Yeah. Make sure all the lights are on up here, y'all. Okay. Make sure you got all that on. Anyway, let me move on here. That was just a thought that just came to my mind here. Now, I've been on, X, is quite an interesting place because there's just a ton of great information that you get on there. And I mean, there's some mess on there, but their algorithm is, I have to give it to them. They definitely are cleaning it up. And there's a lot of stuff it's not coming down on my algorithm like it used to. It would be some random stuff coming down. I'm like, Brian, how did this even happen? Anyway, so who's been very active as of late on X is IUIC, Israel United in Christ. Let's talk about them for a second, okay? Israel United in Christ. This is a major Hebrew Israelite organization. And they have been very active because they have been doing the Great Commission, go into all the world and preach the good news, to go out. And I think they just have finished this whole tour that they've been doing all throughout New Guinea and maybe some other countries around there. And there's all kinds of videos that they have on social media where they are, preaching to the people of New Guinea, telling them how they are the real chosen people. And that, we're just here to let you know that that's who you are and that, God has a plan and a purpose for you and all that kind of stuff, right? They're doing exactly what they do, And so let's get into this in a moment here. Let me see. I'm trying to see what where I put this under here. This was under... Let's see, because I want you to see their Instagram, Bishop Nathaniel. I want you to take a look at that. I keep clicking on the wrong thing. Okay, okay, that's maybe it's this one. Give me just a moment. Wow, Dwayne. Okay, hold on. That one's down. Let me see. Give me just a moment here. Okay, let's see. If not, I just have to manually pull it up. Okay. All right. Yeah, I had to let's see. Oh, here it is. Okay, here we go. All right. Sorry about that, y'all. Give me just a moment. Yep, here it is. Here it is. Okay, let me pull this up here on the screen because I want y'all to take a look at this. Okay, so I'm on Bishop Nathaniel's page here. And this is him right here. That's him right here. Their artwork is very funny to me because when I talk about deifying this dude, I mean, it's like they just never stop. And here they go. I don't know. I think this is one of the archbishops or whatever, the captains or the sergeants or whatever. Notice they're painting. Now they're putting halos around each other now. Here's one. Here's another one. They're putting halos around each other now. This is what they're doing. This isn't like a fan page. This is actually Nathaniel, the guy that's over IUIC. This is how they are projecting themselves now. You know, they're putting halos around their heads now, just to give you an idea. This is where they're coming from. So yeah, so they've been going to these different countries and preaching the gospel. Okay, so let me switch up. I'll put the main camera up here for a second. I want y'all to, while I'm doing this, I'm bringing up something on the screen here because I want y'all to really engage here for a moment. I want you to think about and process what I'm about to tell you. Okay, so here you have a group, IUIC, right, who basically purports themselves, and it's not just them, it's Hebrew Israelites in general who believe that they are the real people. They are the chosen people. The Bible actually was written for them. The Bible was actually for black people. Black people wrote it, so therefore it's our history book, all of that, right? That's what they preach, okay? And and they also call these people fake. They call the chosen tribe, they call them, they're the fake ones. These Ashkenazis, y'all the fake people, but we're the real people. And we're focusing on IUIC, but this applies to all Hebrew Israelites because their main messaging is that they are the real ones, but those people, the Ashkenazis, the Sephardic people or whatever, they're the fake ones, right? This is what they say. So, but let's look at this from a marketing standpoint. This is probably the best way I can do this. So if they are fake, if these people are the fake people, why would you call yourself by the same name? Why would you mimic them? I want you to think about what I'm saying here in a moment. Remember the video that we did recently where we talked about, we did a side-by-side comparison between Hebrew Israelites and Jewish people, or religious Jews and what they preach and teach and all that. Remember we did a side-by-side comparison. It was pretty much, everything was pretty much right on the nose. And we talked about that. Go back and watch that video. But so anyway, so carrying on, continue on with that. Why would you, if you are declaring that you are the real thing, why would you use the same terminologies and engage in the same practices? I saw just recently, I think it was today, they were like, Happy New Moon Day. And then you go to the Jewish Twitter pages, they're like, Happy New Moon Day. So they doing the same thing. So if if you're the real one, you should be taking lead. Why are you copying them? It's kind of like if you have Coca-Cola, right? I'm Coca-Cola. I came up with I'm the original Coca-Cola. And then somebody else comes along and says, no, I'm Coca-Cola. And so normally what would happen is most companies, if you are trying to knock off them, they're going to take you behind the court because they're saying, no, you're trying to take away our stuff. We're not doing that, right? But it's very interesting when you sit back and you look at how if these Hebrew Israelites, if they are so anti-Semitic and they're just so, oh my God, how is it possible that IUIC is able to get thousands of black men marching up and down the street in New York just at a moment's notice? They're able to put together a march at a moment's notice. How is it that they can scream all this stuff on street corners and stuff if they were so anti-Semitic? Do you understand the powers that are out here? They will snatch you in a moment if you was really that much of a threat. There's a reason why these people are still tolerated on these platforms. These platforms, there are channels that got way bigger numbers than I have, and they say some of the most crazy stuff, but yet YouTube magically keeps them on. And I'm talking like Google themselves, they have departments where they are monitoring everything you're saying. So if you out here and you saying some crazy stuff about that group, they're going to snatch you down. But isn't it interesting that they happen to stay on? They don't get taken down. Isn't that interesting? Have you ever thought of that? Well, let's take a look at something. Let me bring this up on the screen here for you, because this kind of falls in line to what's really going on here. let's take a look here. There are cases where you have companies that will permit, now we're talking in business sense here. There are companies that will allow knockoffs to stay on the market. Let me read this to you, okay? Just follow along with me. It says, yes, there are quite a few notable cases where companies have discovered copycats ripping off their products, often involving trademarks, designs, or branding, but strategically chose to tolerate it rather than to launch lawsuits for IP infringement. This usually happens because the copies act as free advertising. I hope you follow me, okay? Free advertising, build brand awareness among price-sensitive customers, or even drive long-term sales of the originals. Plus, in industries like fashion, designs aren't always strongly protected by law anyway. Here's some standout examples. So you have companies like Yves Saint Laurent, and their counterfeit handbags. They said there's a long tolerated shady street vendors and online sellers peddling fake versions of their iconic logo embossed bags. Instead of aggressive shutdowns, the brand views these knockoffs as free advertising that introduce the luxury aesthetic to a wider audience, educates potential buyers on what the real thing looks like, and funnels about 40% of those counterfeit shoppers towards the genuine products, right? Rolex, they do the same thing. They said they knowingly allow counterfeit versions of its high-end timepieces complete with trademark crown logo to flood markets via unauthorized sellers. The company sees this as aspirational exposure. Aspirational exposure. I want you to listen to that. That boosts the perceived exclusivity and value of authentic Rolexes, turning knockoff buyers into future high-end customers without the hassle or bad PR of constant litigation. Disney does it too, and then they give some other ones down here. So what I would submit to you is this, is that groups like IUIC and other groups, Hebrews in general, anybody that's out here making the claim that they are the real ones, you are part of a much bigger plan of selling the message of the fact that there is a group that is chosen by some deity. You may be the artificial bag, but eventually it's all pointing to the same group at the end of the day. If you calling yourself Israel united in Christ, what you are saying is A, there is an Israel, and B, that they are united with Christ. So you are preaching that there's a connection between Israel and Christ. That's the main hashtags that people are walking away with. Now, you may bring your black face up there and say that, oh, the real Israel is this, and the real Christ looks like that, and all this other stuff. You may be bringing that. You're just the forerunner. You understand what I'm saying? You just the knockoff bag. But at some point, people are going to wake up and realize, wait a minute, y'all were the fake ones. The real Israel, we got to protect the real Israel. What's the guy name? Name escapes me right now. The basketball player and the NBA player. He started in Hebrew Israelite. He started in that. And then now he's all Israel now. He said, I'm just going to fully convert. There was another, we talking about, I've been talking about Damona, same thing. They started, you're talking thousands and thousands of black Americans who were Hebrew Israelites, and then they decided to pick up and to move over to Israel. They are in Israel in a town called Damona right now, where they said 100%, I hope you're hearing me, 100% committal to the IDF. In other words, if you're going to live in Israel, they said, listen, if y'all going to live over here, you have to commit to that your children will fight to spend their time enlisted in the IDF. 100% committal. rate. So they're tied in. So this thing may start off as you a Hebrew and all this stuff, but all roads ultimately lead to acknowledging that there is an Israel. And then number 2, that this Israel is to be protected no matter what. And that 3, that there is a chosen class of people. Now, again, you in your mind think that I'm talking about for quite a number of these people out here, you think you're like, I'm really telling them that, no, we're the real ones. We're the real chosen people. But remember when I talked about real power? You ain't got no power. You may got the power to get out there and scream and holler. You ain't seeing them out there scream. They ain't got to do that. You have already, warmed up the crowd to this idea that there is an Israel, that there is a chosen people, and that they are to be protected and respected no matter what. You're the knockoff bag. That's how this works. Now, you may not get that right now. That may rub you the wrong way or whatever. That may kind of feel kind of, whatever, but it's the truth. Because do you think when you see like groups like IUIC, when they got thousands of black men marching down the street or whatever, and people, black folks, we just like, we love that kind of stuff, but they march in the street and then they go away. Meanwhile, the community is still the same. That's not power. But when you have groups that have come in, Israel, who have got the money, they can come in and say, okay, we're going to get y'all fools dancing in the street because we control the music. We're going to get you to vote a certain way, and we're going to get you to do this and that or whatever. That's the power that people will respect. That's what they're looking at. You're the knockoff bag. You understand what I'm saying? And so it's not just the Hebrews that I'm talking to. It's greater Christianity or anybody that follows the Bible. Remember, I'm not clowning anybody in this space. You know, people, even you in Christendom or you're in the Hebrew or whatever. I'm not clowning y'all. We may have a little fun or whatever every now and then, but I'm speaking from a place where I was once there. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, I'm not going to be tearing people down. I don't do that, like that. You know what I'm saying? But what I am going to do is I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm telling you the truth here. When we're talking about Christians, for example, it's no different because you got Christians that will listen to what I'm saying and be on the corner, like, sitting on the side, like, yeah, that's right. You tell these Hebrews, oh, no, honey, that also applies to you too. Because you got a lot of Christians out here, especially now with all this stuff going on with MAGA and the whole thing with Zionism and all this other stuff. You got Christians out here who may say, well, no, I'm not really a Zionist. I'm not that, but I believe in my Bible 100,000%. Well, you would not have your Bible if it wasn't for them. Y'all the ones that even come out and say, my boss is a what? Do you say your boss is a Bantu worker? No, you say my boss was a Jewish carpenter. You acknowledge that. You acknowledge them. Oh, I follow, the 10 Commandments, which is part of what? The Torah. And I was going back and forth with someone recently on this, on the whole thing about the Torah and all of that, or the Bible for that matter. Them just, and I was trying to get them to understand, listen, what you choose to believe is up to you. You can choose to believe what you want. I could believe I'm a Honda. It doesn't make me one. But once I started trying to get them to see, hey, listen, this is what you believe, but this is history. It doesn't matter. I say, okay, let's just, for fun and games, let's just say everybody in the Bible was black. Let's just say that, okay? Let's just say that. Okay, everybody in the Bible is black. But do you pay attention to the actual history of those people beyond the Bible? Why are you so afraid to go beyond the Bible and read the full history of these various people and individuals that contributed to the book that you have in your hand? And isn't it funny and strange and ironic and crazy that out here a lot of Hebrews that will criticize Christianity, but when you pick up the book that they call the Bible and you look at the first page, it says Thomas Nelson publication or whatever. It's you know what I'm saying? Your Bibles come from Christians, but yet you criticize Christianity. Make it make sense. Better yet, don't. You understand what I'm saying? So these guys, when we talk about IEIC, for example, they're going all around and criticizing Christianity, but yet they're preaching out of Bibles that came from publishers that are Christians. Make it make sense. But they are doing not just IUSC. I'm talking about Hebrews in general. It could be online-based Hebrews. They are Hebrews that go after Christians. You are doing the work that these Orthodox Jews and Jews in general, they hate Christians. They will tell you that. They hate Christians. Now you got, some Jewish organizations that say the fellowship between Christians and Jews. There's a few others out there like that. But for the most part, they do not like Christians. They don't. They don't. And so when you hear Hebrew Israelites going the same route and preaching all this venom against Christians, they're no different than these people. Don't you know the end game of these people? They want to eradicate all of this. The only thing they want standing at the end of the day is Judaism. And what you hear Hebrew Israelites teaching out here today is low rent Judaism. That's what it is. And at the end of the day, the so-called power that we claim as a people to have, if it's centered around church, if it's centered around the Bible in any way, shape, or form, and then I will tell you, you do not have any power. You don't. You don't. Okay? Because if you had power, it wouldn't be a such thing as seeing black folks in hospitals. If you had power, we wouldn't be in 2025 still complaining about SNAP. Oh my God, they taking SNAP from us. We ain't got no way to eat and take care of ourselves and all that. We wouldn't be complaining about that, because if you had power, just like the person that you're trying to emulate, you would find some 5 loaves of Wonder Bread and some fish, get some whiting, and you will feed the 5,000 with it. But instead it's locked up as a story in a book that you romanticize, but you can't manifest it in real life. That's why you got Negroes by the tens of thousands out here taking to social media complaining about something that the government won't get them. But yet you will stay in your churches, in your whatever it is, and talk about how much power you have, that one day this is going to flip. Meanwhile, your people are starving, but your Bible says you are supposed to be walking in that power now. Change some fish and loaves and feed these folks. If your power came from that. When are you going to start being honest about these things? We're looking at the Kanye West and some of these other entertainers, and they dare say something about, that I think that the people in the Bible were actually black. And then people just taking it, see, it's happening, the awakening, the awakening, all that stuff, right? And then it'll be a month later, you see them in a sex scene, and then they go, ooh, 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 ooh. You gone quiet. Now they ain't got nothing to say. Well, we ain't all perfect. Hey, listen, what you doing? They flip it. They try to find some way to flip it back on you. What you doing? We ain't all perfect. Yeah, okay, whatever. Okay, whatever. So I'll just say this too. I said, if you are following the Bible, Israel is at the center of your paradigm, your personal framework. That's what it is. So everything we're seeing right now, and I'm telling you right now, so when I saw some of y'all mention earlier about Candace Owens, saying something about Candace Owens and all of this stuff, but it ain't just her. There's a lot. This whole Israel thing is being exposed, just how much influence they have on a lot of this stuff here. See, I don't care. It's truth is the truth, and we're going to tell the truth. And the way you tell the truth is you go right to the truth. You go right to the receipts. I'm not going to sit up here and be like, yeah, these dogs and these vipers and I ain't got to do the name calling. I don't have to do any of that. I don't need to do any of that. I just go right to what they wrote, what they published, and say, here you go. This is what they said here. Like we wrote, like earlier tonight, we read Maimonides, their most respected rabbi, and what he had to say about black folks. Maybe I need to bring that up again for those who, came in late. That's okay. If you just came in, let me see if I can find that for you. Where did I put Yeah, I think I know where it is. Just going to leave it off on this one here. Oh, here it is. Okay, Maimonides. Let's read this again. This is considered the most respected rabbi in Judaism. This is what he had to say. All right, I read this earlier, but I'm going to read it again. All right, this is what he had to say. And by the way, you do have Hebrews that will refer to the Talmud, some passages of the Talmud to make certain proofs, if you will, about black people being the true people and all that stuff. So yeah, you got black folks that will dip into that. And if I had time, I would get into the black folks that are also have been dipping into the Mormonism. Boy, oh boy, I have a lot to tell you on that one. Anyway, let's move on. So this is Maimonides. I'm gonna leave off of this. Among those who have no religion, there is a group of people whose entire inner thought is given to the immediate satisfaction of their material wants and appetites, and they do not long for anything else. To them, men become like the dumb animals, or even lower. Since the animals at least do not eat to the point of bursting, and they do not mate with every woman they see, I have already mentioned in the first part of this treatise that the inhabitants of the South have lustful and bestial natures. We can really take some time on this one here. So can you imagine for me for a second, Sean? Imagine for me for a second. Just imagine with me for a second that a world where black folks aren't as overly sexual that you see as portrayed, not just in the media, but the media that black folks themselves put out. Can you imagine that a time where black folks were never like that? That time apparently existed. But them folks came in, and this is their plan right here. This is what they're telling you right here. This is how they envisioned Negroes. They were very specific here. All right. I have already mentioned in the first part of these treatises that the inhabitants of the South have lustful and bestial natures. They have bodies which are hotter than the bodies of other people because they are closer to the sun, whose rays reach them when it is near the zenith. Y'all, these folks are confirming that we are in fact people of the sun. All right. They're confirming that. Okay, let's go with that. Yep. Because they are closer to the sun, whose rays reach them when it's near its zenith. This is the opinion of the physicians. And the inhabitants of the North are the people with weak and cold natures. Didn't Umar Johnson, he did a whole story. Y'all laughing, but here you go. All right. He says, whose rays reach them when it's in. Okay. This is the opinion of the physicians, and the inhabitants of the North are the people with weak and cold natures, whose bodies are cold and their humors thick. The inhabitants of the South are the Negroes, and they have lustful and bestial natures, and their bodies are hotter than the bodies of other people. To my mind, they do not have the rank of men, but have among the beings a rank lower than the rank of man, but higher than the rank of the apes. For they have the external shape and lineaments of a man, and the faculty of discernment that is superior to that of apes. So with that, as I was saying earlier, this is how they view you. This is why you can get a $1 billion black man bowing his knee to them, and you will never see a white man doing that, not publicly, because they have already put in the minds of black folks that we are to be in that position. Rather, if you have $1,000 in your pocket, rather if you have EBT in your pocket, or even if you got $1 billion, you will always be seen under them. That is how they view you. And this is how people like Kanye, Nick Cannon, all these other Negroes out here, at the end of the day, they bow down. Did you know LeBron James, this is also his same rabbi? Why does LeBron James need a rabbi? Interesting, he's not going to TD Jakes. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying you go to who you perceive that has more power than you. And I just showed you during this broadcast, so these various hip hop artists seem like they're coming out of the woodwork like, yeah, I'm for Israel too. And, you know, but they'll say, nigga, 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 nigga. They'll call you and your children N-words. They'll say it all the time. Call your daughters bees and hoes. And black folks, unfortunately, who have been taught and trained that you are lower than, that you ain't worth nothing at all, we take it and turn it to a freaking dance. We take the insults and turn it around and make it into a dance. We personalize insults. Just like I was bringing out in that last video. You heard what I was saying in the last video. Oh, when the reason why we are the true Israel, we're true Israel, is because we're cursed. What tomfoolery, crazy ideology is that? I was in it. The reason why we know we're blessed is because we're cursed. The reason why we know we're chosen is because we're cursed. Meanwhile, the people that you're trying to emulate, they got banks, they own islands, they own houses, they running the whole thing. But one day, this thing gonna flip, and one day we gonna get it. It's always one day with black folks. And then when they die in the funeral, well, they living in a much better place now. Why can't one day be today? And it doesn't, and I'm not referring to you gonna go have the same houses as that, because if you think that is success, if you think that is true happiness in of itself, think again. And like I said, I'll do another video one time. What energy you put out that's what you attract. So if you're an individual that always sees yourself as less than, and that nothing's going to ever work out, and that these white people are going to always hold you down, then guess what? That is the kind of stuff that's going to always come your way. But if you're someone that really sees who you really are, you're going to begin to see things change in your life. You will. You understand what I'm saying? But we have been trained to think this way, that we are always supposed to be climbing the rough side of the mountain. Stop climbing the rough side of the mountain. You understand? So anyway, as you can see, there's a lot to say on this whole topic tonight, but all this other stuff, let's put an end to this fake that we're speaking truth to power. Because again, if you are speaking truth to power, that means you are acknowledging to yourself that you don't have any power. And I am telling you that you have power. You do. You understand what I'm saying? And it's beyond anything that a book can tell you, because books pass away. It was interesting last night. You know what I do before I go to bed? I do my breathing exercises, and then being out here in Arizona area at night, for now at least, you can still see a lot of the stars. Not as much as you can see it if you're up in Flagstaff, but down here you could still see a number of stars at night. Man, it'll be like late at night. I'm in the backyard just staring up at the sky, and I said, looking at these stars, and I'm like, wow, man, these stars have been here. They just been here the whole time. They done come and gone. They have seen things come and gone. So do you understand? So I'm bringing that up because how foolish is it for you to regulate your entire life, your entire belief system on a book that one day is just going to be non-existent? I want to be tied into that which is eternal, that is always there. You know what I mean? Anyway, so there you go. So that's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to this broadcast, as always. Remember, again, we got that promo going on over at sombertree.com. Save up to 30%. Let me see what I got. What can we leave off with tonight? Let's see. Looking at what song we can lead off with tonight. Where's my playlist here? Hold on for a second. Here we go. Playlists. Let's see. I think that is all I have here. I think I will leave off with. I'll leave off with Be the Mountain. How about that? Be the Mountain. I'll lead off with that. All right, there you go. That's all I have. Thank you so much for tuning in. You guys take care. And I'll see you next time.
I've been running with the winds of change, trying to find my name in the rain, but the mountain never moves. It just breathes in the silence and it knows the truth. Climbers come and go, say they've touched the top, but the mountain smiles, says, child, I never stop. Through all the noise I finally see the stillness I was chasing is inside of me. Be the mountain, never shaken, never torn. Be the sky above the clouds, reborn. Be the star in the calm of night, always shining, always light. The real you, the real life is a peace that never Watch the ages turn like pages. Watch the heart forget who it was, but that voice inside unchanged.